Picture a horse standing alone, right at the edge of a black loch, soaked to the skin, even though it hasn't rained. Calm, beautiful, the finest animal you've ever seen. And it's waiting for you to climb on. I promise you, every version of this story you've ever heard gets one thing wrong. The Kelpie isn't a monster that hunts you. It's a monster somebody invented on purpose to save your life. And once you know why, you'll never look at a quiet stretch of water quite the same way again. So stay with me, because I'm going to show you why you can never climb off its back once you're on. The one rule every Highland child learned before they could read, and the thing in the deeper water that was even worse than the Kelpie. But it starts here, a horse, by the water. Let me show you. Start with the land itself, the Scottish Highlands, not the postcard version, the real one. 30,000 lochs, rivers that run black and fast, fords you have to cross on foot, in the dark, in the cold. And in that landscape, people kept disappearing. So the stories grew up around the water, and the most famous of them all was the Kelpie. The Kelpie was a shapeshifter. Most often it appeared as a horse, grey or the deepest black, standing alone near a river or a loch, tame, lost, perfect. The kind of horse a tired traveller would be glad to find. But look closer. The old tales say, and the details are wrong, its coat is dripping even when it hasn't rained. There's riverweed tangled in its mane, sand and water where a real horse would be dry, and its hooves, some say its hooves are turned backwards. It's not lost, it's fishing, and you're the bait. Here's how the Kelpie kills. You climb on its back. Maybe you're a child who's never seen such a fine horse. Maybe there are several of you, and you all pile on. The tales love that detail, because the Kelpie's back could stretch to fit as many riders as came. And the moment you're seated, you understand your mistake. You can't get off. The Kelpie's skin is adhesive, sticky, like cold tar. The instant your skin touches its hide, you're fixed there. Hands, legs, the whole of you, and no amount of pulling will free you. Then it turns. It walks calmly, never in a hurry, straight into the deepest part of the water, and it takes you down with it. The old people said the Kelpie ate most all of its victim. Almost. It left the liver or the entrails to float back up and wash against the shore the next morning. That was how the village knew the water had fed again. And there's the rule. The one every Highland child learned before they could read. Never, ever mount a strange horse near the water. Not to ride it, not to touch it, not even if it's the finest animal you've ever seen. Especially then. Hold on to that rule, because in a few minutes we're going to show you exactly why it existed. And it's not what you think. The horse wasn't the Kelpie's only shape. Sometimes it came out of the water as a man. A handsome stranger on a lonely path, falling into step beside a young woman walking home. Charming, attentive, too good to be true, which, of course he was. But the Kelpie could never quite finish the disguise. The tell was always the same. Waterweed in his hair, sand behind his ears, a dampness that never dried. In some stories the woman runs her fingers through his hair to find it braided with the green weed of the riverbed, and she knows, in that instant, what's walking beside her. Some versions go darker still. The stranger lays his head in her lap to rest, and she feels it, that cold, adhesive skin at the back of his neck, and realizes if she doesn't cut herself free right now, she'll be pulled under before morning. The shape changes. The lesson doesn't. Whatever comes out of the water wearing a friendly face, don't trust it. But the Kelpie had a weakness, and this is where the legend gets strange. All of its power lived in one thing, its bridle. Get a bridle onto a Kelpie, or better, steal the one it already wears, and the monster is yours, bound, obedient, forced to work. There's a whole cycle of tales about this. A clever laird throws a bridle over a Kelpie, and it sets to hauling stone, and the creature drags the blocks that build his castle before dawn. In another, a Highland family, the MacGregors, some say keep a captured Kelpie's bridle for generations, because the bridle itself held magic. Heal the sick with it, ward off harm, see what's coming. But a bound Kelpie never forgives. In the oldest versions, the moment it's freed, it turns at the water's edge and curses the family that held it. The sons will be born, but they'll not thrive. A warning wrapped in a folktale. You can master the thing in the water for a while. You do not get to keep it. And if the Kelpie of the rivers frightened you, the Highlands had something worse. The Each-Uisge, the water horse of the sea lochs and the deep still waters. Everything the Kelpie was, the Each-Uisge was more so, more cunning, more deadly. It didn't linger by running rivers, it haunted the great dark lochs, the kind with no bottom anyone had ever found, and it was less patient about the killing. The old rule about the Each-Uisge was simpler. If you were riding along the shore of a sea loch and your horse so much as caught the scent of salt water, get off, because you might not be on a horse at all. This is the creature that stands behind 100 lake monster stories. Before anyone said the words Loch Ness, the people who lived on those shores already knew that something in the water wore the shape of a horse. They just called it by a much older name. So here's the part I promised you, the reason the Kelpie exists. Strip the shape-shifting away and look at where the stories actually cluster. They don't spread evenly across Scotland. They gather precisely around the most dangerous water. Fast fords, undercut riverbanks, cold, deep lochs, with a steep drop-off and a step from the shore. The exact places a child could die in under a minute. And in a country with that much water and that many drownings, children did. The Kelpie was the answer to a problem every parent had and none could solve. How do you keep a child away from water when you can't watch them every second? You don't warn them. Warnings fade. You give them a monster. A horse that looks perfect, because the dangerous water looks perfect too, calm and inviting. Skin you can't let go of, because that's exactly what drowning feels like. The water that won't release you. A back that fits every child who climbs on, because the tales were told to whole groups of children at once, and every one of them needed to believe it. The Kelpie isn't superstition dressed up as a horse. It's a survival rule dressed up as a horse. Stay away from the deep water, or the water will take you and never give you back. Every terrifying detail is a lesson, sharp until a 5-year-old would remember it for life. The monster was the message, and the message was true. So, is the Kelpie real? The shape-shifting horse, the sticky skin, the drag to the bottom? No. That part lives in the telling. But here's what I want you to sit with. The thing the Kelpie was built to warn you about? That's as real as it gets. The water waits, it's patient, and it looks its most beautiful right before it takes you. Generations of Scots wrap that truth in a monster, because a monster is easier to obey than a statistic. Today, you can stand in Folklore and look up at the Kelpies. 2 horse heads, 30 meters of steel, the largest sculptures of their kind on Earth. People smile and take photos underneath them. Most of them have no idea they're standing under a warning. So if this one got under your skin, hit like and subscribe, because the next thing waiting in the water is even harder to look away from. The horse is still standing at the edge of the water, calm, beautiful, waiting. Don't climb on. Every legend starts at the fire. This one started at the water's edge, and it was never really about the horse.